Welcome to the 100 Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm going to actually dive in to recap the Thursday night football matchup between the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. And then I'm going to then go over some quarterbacks that I think are going to be great streaming options for you for Week 6 matchups. And really, to get things going, I just can't believe how bad this game was for the Broncos. The Chiefs won a really gritty game. It was led by their defense, and their defense looked fantastic. Their defense was able to get the job done. Travis Kelce was a bright spotlight for that offense, even though it wasn't a more like Chiefs-like game where the offense was high-powered. I predicted that they would hit 30 points tonight, but this was a very tough divisional game as we saw. And Travis Kelce, again, had 9 for 9 on receptions, had 124 targets. Rather, he had 124 yards in the air, and he also provided 21.4 fantasy points in PPR formats. Patrick Mahomes, he wasn't blowing anyone out of the water. However, he did put up 17.3 points in fantasy in the outing versus the Denver Broncos. And really one of the main spotlights for that Kansas City offense in fantasy was their kicker, Harrison Butker. He went 4 for 4, went 1 for 1 on extra points, giving you 17 points in fantasy football. And then Isaiah Pacheco, that guy continues to be really impressive, really runs aggressively. He had 62 rushing yards on 36 receptions. 36 receiving yards, and he also had 6 receptions, giving you a total of 15.8 points, showing his versatility, running it really aggressively. And for the Broncos, really the main spotlight, rather the main star the main person that did anything really worth mentioning was Courtland Sutton. And even then, he had a really brilliant one-handed catch that went for a touchdown, and he ended it with he had 4 receptions on 46 receiving yards, giving you 14.6 points. And Javonte returned back from his injury, and he had 10 rushes for 52 yards, and he also converted a 2-point conversion, giving you 7.2 points in fantasy. And then McLaughlin, who was someone that was filling in for Javonte, was still involved. He had 7 attempts for 30 yards, 2 receptions on 2 targets for 12 yards, so 6.2 points in fantasy. And Samaje Perine went 2 for 2 on his receptions, giving you 12 yards, really wasn't involved, and had a very costly fumble that cost the game for the Broncos, or rather ended the game for the Broncos, really, because by then they were already down by double digits. But anyways, the Broncos just look so like Russ and the coaching staff there with Sean Payton. It just hasn't worked out. I mean, I don't really know what to chalk it up to, other than just this team just does not look like it's syncing well. The defense has moments where they tend to get some pretty good stops, but then the offense just doesn't click well enough to be able to put it all together, really, which is unfortunate because I'm sure a lot of people were very optimistic with the Sean Payton and Russell Wilson connection because of the success that we saw naturally with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. It's very easy to get excited and think, okay, Russ is a pretty capable quarterback, but he's just showing that he's basura. He's just not good. I mean, he threw for 95 passing yards on Thursday Night Football. 95. He didn't even crack triple digits, which is crazy because Russ, believe it or not, was once good. And so he had 95 passing yards on 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, giving you 6.9 fantasy points. Now, in his defense, this was the worst game so far he's had this year. It was versus the defending champs. Divisional matchup, you're on the road, short week. I get it, so many different factors, but man, I just would have never envisioned how bad Russ and the Broncos would have been, especially considering that they haven't had any major injuries. I mean, I know that Judy had a little bit of a setback, but you still got Sutton, you still got Javonte Williams, who again, granted, is coming back from injury, but you would imagine that the money you're paying Russell Wilson, he would be able to, counter all those flaws. That's what you pay a franchise quarterback to do, is to cover up some of the flaws that the team has overall. But yeah, the one spotlight on Thursday Night Football was Courtland Sutton again, and he's the one that for me was impressive for Denver, and he continues to be someone I root for. But man, it's just really hard to watch the Broncos, and I'm I like Javonte as well, but something just seems to be off with this offense. But anyways, as we then transition, the Green Bay is up next for Denver, and I believe it's going to be a tough matchup because Green Bay does allow the Green Bay is in the top 12 for fewest points allowed to opposing fantasy quarterbacks as far as points allowed, and I believe that it will be a tough matchup once again for Denver. Granted, the game is at home, but it's just so hard to expect anything positive coming out of Denver, considering that they've already had so many tough beats, and I think it's going to continue to be the same, being that Green Bay themselves had a really tough loss last week on Monday Night Football. And for Kansas City, they're going to go up against a division rival, another division rival. They're going to go up against the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Chargers are ranked 4th worst as far as points allowed to the opposing quarterback, and I believe that this will bode well really for Kansas City, so you'll see more of an explosive performance from the offense in this game. Now, one thing I want to transition to, in week 6, we've been hearing so many unfortunate injuries, especially at the quarterback position. We already got news that Anthony Richardson is going to be out for 4 games. Same with Deshaun Watson, who's not going to start this weekend for week 6. So then what do you do? Where do you turn to? So I have 3 streaming options at the quarterback position that are available right now in most leagues, and I believe will be great fits. So the first one I'm going to go with is going to be Matthew Stafford, who's going up against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Matthew Stafford has thrown for 300 yards in 3 of his 5 games this season. He also is going up against a team that has allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, and they've also allowed the 4th most passing yards to opposing teams. Right now, Stafford is only rostered in 44.3% of leagues, so this is someone that is available that could be a good streaming option, especially if you are dealing with significant injuries on your fantasy roster. Now, someone else that I think would be a pretty good option for you is going to be Gardner Minshew, and I get that he's going up against a division rival in Jacksonville, and obviously Anthony Richardson is going to really be a huge void in that offense, but I believe that Gardner Minshew actually may add some value to the other pass catchers in that offense, considering that he has shown to really target guys such as Pittman, and Downs got a lot of work too over the past couple weeks, and I believe that will continue to be the same with Gardner Minshew under center for the Colts. Jacksonville actually allows the 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, and right now Gardner Minshew is available in 1.9% of ESPN leagues, and I believe that the upside is there, especially considering that he has familiarity with his coaching staff, and he should be a pretty good fill considering that the matchup seems pretty favorable at home. Now, another one I like is going to be Baker Mayfield for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, he's going up against the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are a bottom 10 team when it comes to passing touchdowns allowed, and he's also had 16 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. And he's coming off a bye week, so things should be better for his pass catchers and Mike Evans as well as Chris Godwin. And I just believe that this is a pretty good, advantageous matchup that will allow Baker Mayfield to be a solid streamer for you at the quarterback position. Currently, his rostership, let me look that up. Actually, I didn't actually check that one. So let me see. Currently, right now, Baker Mayfield is only rostered. Yeah, it's very low. So right now, Baker Mayfield is only rostered in 17.4% of ESPN fantasy rosters. So someone worth mentioning, rather someone worth starting, especially considering if you are depleted at the quarterback position, if you have a quarterback on bye or you have a quarterback that is injured. Unfortunately, these are some good options that will help you out in week number 6. Now, as we get ready to close, I just wanted to give one final thought and just talk about this word discipline. And discipline is tough because even as I work full time, I do things on the side with my freelance work, my videography, my photography. It can be so hard to be consistent on doing the important things. And people tend to act out of motivation, which is great. But motivation only gets you so far. It's a discipline that becomes that driving force. So as we go on for the rest of the day, I want to encourage you, hone in on how you can tap into discipline and on how you can be more disciplined in other areas of your life. And one practical way that I would actually challenge you to help you in this part of your life is to determine, okay, what are some of the things that are hard for me to do? And so, for example, for me, at times it can be recording, and it can be recording late at night because I'm naturally someone that likes to wake up early in the morning. However, I'm now developing systems that can help me do that. So, for example, after I put the girls down, I go immediately to the office. So then that way I'm not tempted to not go to my bed to go fall asleep. So that's one way that I hold myself accountable, because the minute I sit in this chair, I know it's go time. So, and actually, there is this verse I would like to share with you. As you guys know, I like to pull inspirational messages from the Bible, and I think this is a great resource to help you out. So here is a great verse that I love to share, and it comes out of Hebrews 12 verse 11. It says, "For the moment all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it." I took a pause because I was like, wow, that's really deep. So again, for the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. So the real winners are the ones that know how to deny and push self-gratification. The more that you can push pleasure and motivation, the more fruit you're going to yield that's going to truly benefit you. So that's my challenge for you today. So as we close, best of luck to you. I'll be dropping a video very soon, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. As always, guys, thank you for watching, making it to the very end. If you are listening to our audio on any of the podcast platforms, be sure to leave a review as well as subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for the support. Be sure to subscribe as well, and make sure to stay tuned to all the news and information that will help you dominate your fantasy football leagues. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.